one thing they want to hear. They're going to ask, how well and hard do you compete? Now here's what competing revolves around. Going out and saying, I think too many times players at all levels are so caught up in how the ball feels and how they're playing, as opposed to how they're competing, okay? And the difference is, I mean, there are gonna be times where you're playing a match right now, we got Stanford against Florida, and if it's 3-3 in matches, and your players on the court, do you care how well they're playing, or do you care how well they're fighting? Okay. So here's the thing, you're gonna go out there because it happens to Nadal, Djokovic, to Alcaraz, to Serena, to all the top players where you may not be playing to the best of your ability, but at the same time, if you have the right attitude and mindset and you learn to compete well, what are some of the, so when I say compete, what am I talking about? What is competing? I'm sorry? Yeah, but what else? What's competing? Well, I'm talking about competing.
Like competing, like you actually give it all, your all, like you're not.
No, that's
Okay.
right. She's right. Go ahead. You're
Okay, that's it.
good. Okay, so here's competing. Competing is when, let me give you a great example. How many of you guys go, oh my God, I can't believe this player pushes. That's not a good player. That player's a great player. Okay? I mean, let me tell you something. Coaches love players that fight, because if you're pushing, that means you'll do whatever it takes to win. And I'm not sitting here advocating pushing, but at times you have to do what you have to do to be successful. Competing means, you know what? It's windy out. I've got to make sure that maybe I bring my margins in and I don't go for so much. Competing means I'm struggling on my forehand side. Well, maybe I need to pull a bit more topspin and just keep the ball in play for right now and 7 minor strokes. Competing means playing a player that I hate to play. I got to dig deep and fight. Because the biggest issue that I've seen through tennis especially is making excuses and basically not holding yourself accountable for your effort and attitude and doing it on a consistent basis. So when you're competing, you dig deep and you fight. You know, one of the very first things, again, I've used Michael Jordan's example. He says, if you're not willing to compete, I will completely dominate you, okay? And what that means is when you compete against somebody, mentally being in every point, having the right attitude, having the right focus, and doing the proper things that it takes to be successful, and having a different mindset that you've got the right attitude, the right determination, the right fight. Does all that make sense, guys, here? Now, let's ask some questions here. So, what's the ages here? What do we have? Which the youngest? How old are you? 11. Okay, so what's the age group? This is 12. Okay. So this is, and here's the thing. If at this age you can start understanding this, you're going to be way ahead of so many players. Trust me. You're going to be way ahead of so many players. Because having that understanding of what it takes, I can teach somebody a backhand, okay? But it's harder to teach somebody to be tough mentally and to be positive and upbeat and do the right things on a consistent basis. I can teach somebody how to hit high ball or volley or serve, but can I teach that person how to really concentrate over long periods of time and play to the best of their ability? Okay. Before we go forward, parents or kids, any questions?